The Flemish Parliament, and formerly called Flemish Council of Vlaamse Raad, constitutes the legislative power in Flanders, for matters which fall within the competence of Flanders, both as a geographic region and a cultural community of Belgium. The Flemish Parliament approves decrees, which are Flemish laws, applicable to all persons in the Flemish region, and to Flemish institutions in Brussels. It appoints and supervises the Flemish Government, and it approves the Flemish budget. The Flemish Parliament meets in the Flemish Parliament building in central Brussels, and its members and staff are housed in the House of the Flemish Representatives. History. From 1830 until 1970, Belgium was a unitary state with a single government and a bicameral national parliament. The laws issued by Parliament applied to all Belgians, and government ministers exercised their authority across the length and breadth of the country. Between 1970 and 2001, the Belgian Parliament approved 5 successive constitutional reforms. Slowly they changed Belgium from unitary into a federal state. Part of this was to give the communities and later the regions their own parliaments. On December 7, 1971, the Cultural Council for the Dutch-speaking cultural community held its first meeting. Later followed a parliament for the Flemish Region. Flanders decided as early as 1980 to merge the Flemish community with the Flemish region. As a result, Flanders now has a single parliament and a single government with competence over community as well as over regional matters. This parliament was called the Vlaamse Raad until it was officially renamed Vlaamse Parliament on June 13, 1995. Over the last 30 years, Flanders has thus developed into a separate state within the federalized Belgium. Members are called Vlaams Volksvertegenwoordigers. In English they are referred to as members of the Flemish Parliament, like the MSPs in Scotland and the MEPs in the European Union. The title Flemish Representative is also used in English. Since 1995, members of the Flemish Parliament have been directly elected. Currently, many voices in the Flemish movement would like the Flemish Parliament to acquire certain sovereign powers in addition to those concerning language, culture and education. Furthermore, among the broader Flemish population, a consensus has emerged that the Flemish Parliament should also acquire much larger financial and fiscal autonomy. Competencies for the entire Flemish community. Culture. The Flemish Parliament is competent for all cultural matters. This includes protection of the cultural heritage, tourism and the media. The public Flemish radio and television broadcasting company is the VRT. Language use, including language use in schools and universities, in the Flemish and local administrations, and in relations between employers and employees in the Dutch-speaking part of Belgium, with exception of the language facilities enjoyed in some municipalities. All matters relating to the person, youth protection, family policy and child care, together with policy regarding the handicapped, old age pensioners, equal opportunities and the integration of migrants. Education, from kindergarten to university including scholarships, though the establishment of the period of compulsory education, requirements for awarding degrees, and pension schemes for teachers remain at the federal level. Health care, including preventive health care, home care, institutions for mental health care, but excluding health insurance, financing of hospitals and most other competencies that remained federal. Competencies for the Flemish region only. Economy, employment and energy policy, includes government support for business, employment policy, agriculture and fisheries, the distribution of electricity and natural gas, the exploitation of new energy sources and the promotion of responsible use of energy, town and country planning, housing, land development and nature conservation, including regional planning, building building permits, housing policy, social housing, urban renewal, preservation of monuments and natural sites, land consolidation and nature conservation, environment and water policy, including the reduction of air, land and water pollution, noise control, the purification of wastewater, the production and distribution of drinking water and waste disposal policy. Scientific research. This field is the full responsibility of the regional authorities, except for aerospace and military research. Public works and transport includes roads, ports, the regional airports, and urban and regional transport. Agriculture includes the Agricultural Investment Fund, the agricultural education, the development of rural regions, the sale of agricultural and horticultural products, and the fisheries policy. By the stipulations of the Lambamont Agreement, the regions are competent for almost the complete agricultural policy, but a few security aspects like food security and animal welfare which remained under the competence of the federal government. Local government includes the allocating of financial resources to the 308 Flemish municipalities and to the Flemish provinces, and administrative supervision of these communes and provinces and the laws. International affairs. For all areas within its sphere of competence, the Flemish region can conclude international treaties with other states, whether they are national states or member states of a federation. This competence includes development cooperation and foreign trade. Members of the Flemish Parliament. 118 members are directly elected in the Flemish region. They have voting rights for both regional and community competencies. 6 members are directly elected in the Brussels capital region by those voters who voted for a Dutch-speaking party in the Brussels regional elections. They have no voting rights for the regional competencies. This table shows the distribution of seats following the 2014 regional election, previous legislative terms. The following table lists each legislative term since 1995, when the Flemish Parliament was first directly elected following the Fourth State Reform. The parties are ordered by size in the respective term. Green-colored parties indicate the government majority, whereas red parties form the opposition. Officers. At the beginning of each parliamentary year, on the fourth Monday in September, the Flemish Parliament elects its Speaker. The Speaker chairs the plenary sessions of the Flemish Parliament and acts as its official representative. He or she determines whether a certain initiative is admissible and thus can be put to Parliament at all. The Flemish ministers take the oath before the Speaker of the Flemish Parliament. Only the head of the Flemish Government, the Flemish Minister-President, takes the oath before the King. The current Speaker of the Flemish Parliament is Jan Peumans of the New Flemish Alliance. The Speaker of the Flemish Parliament is assisted by the Bureau, which consists of the Speaker, 4 Deputy Speakers and 3 Secretaries. The Bureau is responsible for the day-to-day activities of the Flemish Parliament and meets at least once every 2 weeks. The Extended Bureau, which consists of the Bureau and the floor leaders of the recognized political fractions in the Flemish Parliament, coordinates the political activities of the Flemish Parliament and sets the agenda for the plenary session. It usually meets every week on Monday. Speakers Cultural Council for the Dutch Cultural Community 1971 to 1974, Robert van der Kerkhof. 1974 to 1977, Jan Buscoeur. 1977 to 1979, Moritz Kopeters. 1979-1980, Henry Boel. Flemish Council 1980-1981, Henry Boel. 1981 to 1985, Jean Pied. 1985 to 1988, Frans Groot-Jans. 1988, Jean Pied. 1988 to 1994, Louis van Volthoven. 1994 1995 Edibaldevines. Flemish Parliament 1995 to 2006 Norbert de Batcelia 2006 to 2009 Marleen van der Poorten 2009 present Jan Pumans. Committees. Much of the work of the Flemish Parliament is done in committee. The Flemish Parliament currently has 11 standing committees. Each committee is specialized in a particular subject area and consists of 15 members of the Flemish Parliament. The primary task of the committees is to examine the texts of decree proposals and organize hearings and discussions on decree proposals. There are usually also ad hoc committees, such as the Digital Flanders Committee and the Flemish Constitution Committee. List of standing committees: Committee for General Affairs and Financial and Budgetary Matters, Subcommittee on Finance and Budget, Committee for Brussels and its Flemish Periphery, Committee for Administrative Affairs, Institutional and Administrative Reform and Decree Evaluation, Committee for Housing, Urban Policy, Integration and Equal Opportunities, Committee for Foreign Policy, European Affairs, International Cooperation and Tourism, Committee for Education, Training, Science and Innovation, Committee for Culture, Youth, Sports and Media, Committee for Public Well-being, Public Health and Family Affairs, Committee for Economic Affairs, Employment and Social Economics, Subcommittee on Arms Trade, Committee for Environmental and Nature Conservation Issues, Agriculture, Fishery and Rural Development Policy and Town and Country Planning and Real Estate, Subcommittee on Agriculture, Fishery and Rural Policy, Committee for Public Works, Mobility and Energy.